Book 3, Chapter 86, continuing with verse 22. In course of a short time, they attained their boyhood and became conversant in the language of the gods, Sanskrit. Like the mute clouds become loud in the rainy season. They shone in their circle with the luster of their bodies as the resplendent orbs of the sky burn and turn about in their spheres. In time, these youths lost both parents, who passed off their mortal coils to go to their last abode. Losing both parents, the 10 Brahman lads left their home in grief and went to the top of Mount Kailash to pass their helpless lives in mourning. Here they discussed what would be best for them and what would be the right course to take to avoid the troubles and miseries of life. They talked with one another on such topics as what was the best good of humanity in this world of mortality, and many other subjects, such as what is true greatness, best riches and affluence, and the highest good of humankind. What is the good of great power, possessions, being chief, or even the gain of a kingdom? What forms the true dignity of kings and the high majesty of emperors? What avails the rule of the great Indra, which is lost in one moment of Brahma? What endures a whole kalpa and must be the best good as the most lasting? As they were talking in this manner, they were interrupted by the eldest brother with a voice as grave as that of a leader of a herd of deer to the attentive herd. Of all kinds of riches and dignities, there is one thing that endures for a whole kalpa and is never destroyed. This is the state of Brahma, which I prize above all others. Hearing this, all the good sons of Indu exclaimed in one voice, "Ah, well said." Then they honored the eldest with kind speeches. And they said, "How, O brother, is it possible for us to attain to the state of Brahma, who is seated on his seat of lotuses and is adored by all in this world?" The eldest then replied to the younger brothers, saying, "O you, my worthy brothers, do as I say, and you will be successful. Sit in lotus posture and think yourselves to be the bright Brahma, full of his brilliance and possessing the powers of creation and annihilation in yourselves." Being instructed in this manner by the eldest brother, the younger brothers responded, saying, "Amen," with gladness in their hearts. They sat in meditation together with the eldest brother. They remained in their meditative mood like the still images in a painting. Their minds were concentrated in the inmost Brahma, whom they adored and thought upon, thinking, "Here I sit on the middle of a full-blown lotus. and find myself as Brahma, the great God, the creator and sustainer of the universe. I find in me the whole ritual of sacrificial rites. The Vedas with their branches and supplements, and the Rishis. I view in me the Saraswati and Gayatri mantras of the Vedas, and all the gods and men situated in me. I see in me the spheres of regents of the world and the sacred circles of the spiritual masters revolving about me. With the spacious heaven bespangled with the stars. I see this globe of land and water, decorated with all its oceans and continents, its mountains and islands, hanging like an earring in the material system. Within myself, I have the hollow of the infernal world, with its demons and serpents. I have the cavity of the sky in myself, containing the homes and maidens of the immortals. There is the strong-armed Indra, the tormentor of the lords of peoples, and the sole lord of the three worlds, who receives the sacrifices of men. I see the bright net of the firmament spread over all sides of heaven, and the 12 suns of the 12 moons dispensing their ceaseless beams amidst it. I see the righteous rulers of the sky and the rulers of men protecting their respective regions and peoples with the same care as cowherds take to protect their cattle. I find every day among all sorts of beings, some rising and falling, others diving and floating, like the constant waves of the sea. It is I who create, preserve, and destroy the world. I remain in myself and pervade over all existence as the Lord of all. I observe in myself the revolution of years and ages and of all seasons and time. And I find the same time to be both the creator and destroyer of things. I see a kalpa passing away before me, and the night of Brahma. Dissolution stretched out in my presence, while I reside forever in the Supreme Soul, as full and perfect as the Divine Spirit itself. Thus these Brahmins, the 10 sons of Indu, remained in this sort of samadhi meditation in their motionless postures like fixed rocks and like images hewn out of stones in a hill. In this manner, these Brahmins, being fully acquainted with the nature of Brahma and possessed of the spirit of that deity in themselves, continued in their meditation for a long period, They sat in their lotus posture on seats of kusha grass, freed from the snare of the fickle and frivolous desires of this false and frail world. So this is a perfect example of what we're doing right now, Sahasra Sirsha Brahma. This description of the universe and of the meditation is exactly what we're doing. Well, that's very interesting. Chapter 87. The 10 brother Indavas become the 10 worlds of the next day of Brahma. The sun said, O great Father of creation, in this way these venerable Brahmins remained in that spot for a long time, occupied in their minds with these various thoughts and their several actions. They remained in this state until their bodies dried up by exposure to the sun and air and dropped down in time like withered leaves of trees. Their dead bodies were devoured by the voracious beasts of the forest or tossed about like some ripe fruit by monkeys on the hill. These Brahmins, their thoughts turned away from outward objects and concentrated on Brahma, continued enjoying divine joy in their spirits until the close of the Kalpa cycle at the end of the 4 ages or yugas. At the end of the Kalpa, there is an utter extinction of sunlight by the constant rains poured down by the heavy pushkara and of Vartarka clouds at the great flood, when the hurricane of dissolution blew on all sides and buried all beings under the universal ocean. It was then your Brahma's dark night, and the previous creation slept as if in yogic sleep, yoga nidra, in your sleeping self. Thus, continuing your spirit, you contained all things in their spiritual forms in yourself. Upon waking this day with your desire of creation, all these things are exhibited to your view, like a copy of everything that was already in your inmost mind or spirit. I have thus related to you, O Brahma, how these 10 Brahmins were personified as so many Brahmas. These 10 have become the 10 bright orbs situated in the empty sphere of your mind. I am the eldest among them, consecrated in this temple of the sky and appointed by you, O Lord of all, to regulate the portion of time on earthly being. Now I have given you a full account of the 10 orbs of heaven, which are no other than the 10 persons united in the mind of Brahma, and now appearing as detached from him. This beautiful world that you behold, appearing to your view with all its wonderful structures, spread out in the skies, serves as, at best, as a snare to entrap your senses and delude your understanding by taking the unrealities as realities in your mind. Chapter 88, Detachment of Brahma. Need to act. Only one's own mind can change one's own mind. Brahma said to Vasishtha, O Brahman, who is the best of Brahmins? The sun god remained silent after telling me about the 10 Brahmins. I thought upon this for some time in my mind and then said, O sun, tell me what I am to create next. Tell me, O sun, what need is there for me to make any more worlds after these 10 globes have come into existence? Now, O great sage, the sun, having long considered in his mind about what I wanted him to say, replied to me in the following manner in appropriate words. The sun said, My Lord, who is devoid of effort or desire, what need do you have to create? This work of creation is only for your pleasure. O Lord, who is free from desires, and gives rise to worlds like sunbeams, raise water, and the sunshine is accompanied by the shadow. You are indifferent to fostering or forsaking your body and need to do nothing to desire or renounce your pleasure or pain. You, O Lord of creatures, create all these things only for the sake of your pleasure, and so you retract them all in yourself, as the sun by turns gives and withdraws its light. You, who is unattached to the world, make your creation as a work of love to you, and not of any effort or endeavor on your part. If you desist from stretching creation out of the Supreme Spirit, what good can you derive from your inactivity? Do your duty as it may present itself to you, rather than remain inactive, doing nothing. A dull person, like a dirty mirror, does not reflect images, is of no use at all. The wise have no desire of doing anything that is beyond their reach, but they never like to leave out anything that presents itself before them and is useful. Therefore, do your work as it comes to you with a cheerful heart, a calm mind, and a tranquil soul, as if it were in your sleep and devoid of desires that you can never reach. You derive pleasure, O Lord of worlds, from forming the orbs of the sons of Indu, so the Lord of gods will give you your reward for your works of creation. Nobody with their external organs of vision can see the world as clearly as you, O Lord. See with the eyes of your mind. For who, by seeing them with his eyes, can say whether you are created or uncreated? Only he who has created these worlds from his mind, and no other person, with his open eyes, can behold me face to face. The 10 worlds are not the work of so many Brahman as it appeared to you before. Nobody has the power to destroy them when they are seated so firmly in your mind. It is easy to destroy what is made by the hand and to shut out the sensible objects from our perception. But who can annul or disregard what is ascertained by the mind? It is impossible for anyone except the owner to remove whatever belief is deep-rooted in the minds of living beings. No curse can remove from the mind whatever has become a habit of confirmed belief in the mind, even though it can kill the body. Principle deeply rooted in the mind forms the mind according to its stamp. It is impossible by any means to make him otherwise, as it is impossible to make a rock bear fruit by watering its root like a tree. And so we've been given a good reinforcement of our concept of individual karmic traces and how they must be balanced by the creator of those individual karmic traces through the agency of the mind and its sole ability to think a thought. Here we are as dream creatures in the mind of the creator. And as such, we are miniature creators. We're like fractals of the creator. We're like fragments of a holographic film. When you shine a laser through that fragment, it will reproduce the entire three-dimensional object. But it produces it in a somewhat fainter form. Our objective is to take 1,000 of these tiny fragments of the mind of the creator. And if we put them all together, we get a large fragment, don't we? That fragment will have a much greater ability to render the projection of the ideal universe when illuminated by Param Jyoti, the effulgence of Krishna. In fact, if you put together 1,000 fragments of the mind of the creator, there will form an emergence, a fragment of the mind of the creator that is much more than the sum of these 1,000 parts. It will literally be something on the order of 1,000 squared. So the 1,000 minds that we're creating, putting together in Sahasra Sirsha Brahma, will become as powerful as 1,000,000 minds of the fragments of the Creator's mind. So in this program, we are leaping ahead to the objective, aren't we? Our objective when we started this was to form 1,000,000 people together in communities, all with the same objective, to achieve Brahman consciousness. Now we find that all we have to do is put together 1,000 individuals devoted to that purpose, and we will create the energy equivalent to those 1,000,000. Then with that energy equivalent to the 1,000,000 devotees of Brahma, we will structure communities where 1,000,000 people will gather, and then they will have the power of 1,000,000 squared. Well, that's a big number. It's big enough to take care of the entire population of Earth, and then some. So we see how the mechanics of our program will work to not only create the communities for 1,000,000 people, but to raise world collective consciousness to a point where the pralaya that is underway now will stop. We can look at it in other ways as well. The pralaya that we're all involved in now as humanity, with ever increasing destruction, domination, control over individuals. Is only happening because the collective karma of the world has caused it to happen. The collective individual karmic traces have created such intense chaos and division in the unified wholeness that is this universe, that it has the ability to destroy the universe by ending the dream in the mind of Brahma prematurely. It's like if we were meditating and enjoying the perspective of the silent witness on a very deep level. And in that process, balancing karmic traces. At some point, a karmic trace balances that is very strong and draws us out of the silent witness. Ends the meditation. we then have to let go of that particular energy of the balancing of that karmic trace, reconnect with the silent witness, and resume. We're at that point right now in the world. The chaos of the world, the collective karma of the world is so strong that it's about to put an end to the whole universe. You can literally see the day when that would come, the trajectory of destruction is now very clear to anyone who thinks about it a little bit. A few years ago, 50 years ago, actually, in 1975, Maharishi caught a glimpse of what is coming and announced the dawn of the age of enlightenment. He saw that there was a very strong period of destruction coming first. So he began working to help create systems for balancing collective karma to slow down or stop that destruction. And we're just continuing on that, in that same trajectory. But this can only be done from within humanity. Humanity created this karma. And if humanity does not rise up to balance this karma, it will be destroyed by it. It's quite a simple thing. Unfortunately, we see this as going to work out very nicely. Chapter 89, the story of the lovers Indra and Ahala, the fixation of their minds on each other. The sun set. The mind is the maker and master of the world. The mind is the first supreme being, Purusha. Whatever is done by the mind is said to be done. The actions of the body are held as no act. Look at the capacity of the mind in the example of the sons of Indu. They were ordinary Brahmins, but by their meditation of Brahma in their mind, they became assimilated in Brahma. One thinking himself as composed of the body becomes subject to all incidents of physicality. But he who knows himself as bodiless is freed from all evils that attend the body. Looking on the outside, we are subject to the feelings of pain and pleasure. But the inward-sighted yogi is unconscious of the pain or pleasure of his body. This is the mind that causes all our errors in this world. Evidence of this is the example of Indra and his consort, Ahalya. The Yoga Vasishta's story of two adulterous lovers, Indra and Ahalya, has many connections with another story that have been well known to an India reader, that of Indra, king of the gods, seducing Ahalya, the wife of sage Gautama, one of the seven rishis. The sage cursed both Indra and his wife. The curse on Ahalya was removed by Ram. As the story became popular over time, the curse that was Ahalya was turned into a stone and came back to life when touched by Ram's foot. Brahma said, "Tell me, my son, my Lord son, who was this Indra and who that Ahalya, so that by hearing my understanding may have its clear-sightedness." The son said, "It is related, my lord. In former times, there reigned a king in Magadha, Indra Dyumna, glorious Indra, by name and similar to his namesake in prowess and fame. He had a wife fair as the moon, with eyes as beautiful as lotuses. Her name was Ahalya, and she resembled Rohini, the moon's favorite. In that city lived a rascal at the head of all the libertines. He was the cheating son of a Brahman and was known by the same name of Indra. Now this queen, Ahalya, came to hear the story of the former Ahalya, wife of Gautama, and her lust related to her at a certain time. This is in reference to the story of god Indra seducing Ahalya, the wife of sage Gautama. Hearing the story, Queen Ahalya felt a passion for the other Indra, the libertine, and became impatient at the absence of his company. She was thinking only how he should come to her. She was fading like a tender vine thrown adrift in the burning desert. She was burning with an inner flame on beds of cooling leaves of watery lotus and plantain trees. She was pining amidst all the enjoyments of her royal state, like a poor fish lying exposed to the dry bed of a pool in summer heat. She lost her modesty with her self-possession. She repeated in her frenzy, "Here is Indra, and there he comes to me." Well, this is a very good example of what happens when individual karmic traces take over the life. Individuals literally run into their destruction. We see a lot of examples of this, and it's quite obvious to us. Karma has taken over this person's life to such a degree, they're literally going to destroy themselves. Can happen to one of us. Finding her in this pitiable plight, the lady of her palace took compassion on her and said, "I will safely conduct Indra before your ladyship in a short time." No sooner did she hear her companion say, "I will bring your desired object to you," than she opened her eyes with joy and fell prostrate at her feet, like one lotus flower falls before another. Then, as the day passed and the shade of night covered the face of nature, the lady made her haste to the house of Indra, the Brahman's boy. The clever lady used her persuasion as far as she could, and then succeeded to bring this Indra with her and present him before her royal mistress. She then adorned herself with pastes and paints and wreaths of fragrant flowers, and conducted her lover to a private apartment where they enjoyed their fill. The youth, also decorated in his jewels and necklaces, delighted her with his sweet caresses. As spring season renovates the tree groves with his luscious juice. Henceforward, this ravished queen saw the full world full with the figure of her beloved Indra. And she did not think much at all of the excellence of her royal lord, her husband. After some time, certain facial indications by the queen caused the great king to know of her love for the Brahman Indra. For as long as she thought of her lover Indra, her face glowed like a full-blown lotus, blooming with the beams of her moon-like lover. The Brahman boy also was inflamed with all his enraptured senses of love of her, and he could not remain for a moment in any place without her company. The king heard the painful news of their affections for each other and of their unconcealed meetings. He also observed many examples of their attachment, and at different times gave them reprimands and punishments as they deserved. They were both cast in the cold water of a tank in cold weather, where instead of betraying any sign of pain, they kept smiling together as in their merriment. Then the king had them taken out of the tank and ordered them to repent for their crimes. But the infatuated pair was far from doing so, and replied to the king in the following manner: "Great king, as long as we continue to reflect on the unblemished beauty of each other's faces, so long are we lost in the meditation of one another and forgetful of our own self. We are delighted in our persecutions, as no torment can separate us from each other. We are not afraid of separation, even though you can separate our souls from our bodies."